Hello and welcome to what I've been calling my office for the past few weeks. My name is Greg Bullock and I'm an associate solicitor here at Else Solicitors, and I'm a member of the corporate and commercial team, and I have a specialism in the transacting of dental practices. This video is for those dental practice owners who are wondering what they can be doing during the pandemic to move forward their plans for selling their practice. I believe it's a perfect opportunity to move forward those plans, and together we'll find out how. So let's look at the first stage, shoring up your practice's defence against COVID-19. And as at the date of filming, most dental practices in England and Wales are closed, and they'll be following this guidance from the NHS. My advice and guidance to NHS dental practice owners is very simple. Number one, keep up to date with the letters of preparedness and applicable standard operating procedures from the NHS. Observe and adhere to that guidance and standard operating procedures where relevant. And thirdly, redeploy staff as appropriate and in accordance with this guidance. In doing so, you seek to ensure that your practice receives the financial support promised by the NHS. So secondly, to those who are private dental practice owners who are no doubt feeling a little left out in the cold, my advice is again very simple. Take full advantage of the business financial support being offered by the UK government, including any loan schemes applicable. 2. Continue to keep staff on furlough where necessary. And 3. Seek advice and guidance from your accountants and other professional advisors in support of your actions. So for both private and NHS practice owners, again, I think I can give some good practical advice. Consider contacting your landlords and lenders, and in each case, seek a reduction in rent, rent-free periods, and even payment holidays in respect of any key loans. And secondly, keep up to date with the practical advice and guidance provided by the BDA. I think it's a benefit to both NHS and private practices that you have the BDA on your side, and they're currently petitioning hard the UK government and the NHS in relation to all issues affecting dental practices. So you've shored up your practice's defences against COVID-19. It's now that we can start getting your practice ready for sale. And yes, I do believe now is a good time to do so. My advice is to examine your practice as if you were the dental practice purchaser, wishing to buy your practice. Consider the information and documentation you would want to receive if you were buying that practice. And is that information and documentation easily at hand, up to date and accurate? Most likely the answer is no. So here's how we can help. We can share with you our due diligence questionnaire served on sellers during most dental practice transactions. We can assist you to undertake a gap fill exercise to understand what documentation, information and responses you are missing. In effect, we can perform the same procedure that a buyer would do on your dental practice prior to purchasing. In this basis, what we are doing is making sure that you have everything in place, accessible, and if we do find some skeletons, sorting those out. Here's some top tips. From our experience, the common areas in which information is lacking, missing, or just can't be found. Missing NHS contracts and contract variation notices, which clearly show the seller's name as the contractor. Out-of-date certification and insurances for key pieces of equipment. Missing asbestos surveys or a failure to keep those surveys updated when you've undertaken building works where that asbestos is present. Missing fire risk assessments or simply a failure to update those fire risk assessments on an annual basis. Missing energy performance certificates or certificates that show an energy rating less than E. missing or expired GDC certificates for clinical staff, missing vaccination records for clinical staff, and finally, missing membership of DDU or other professional indemnity insurance providers for all self-employed persons. Simply doing all of the above can help cut down the time it would take in any sale transaction to prepare and get ready the information required by a buyer before they acquire your practice. Often, due diligence is a most uncomfortable and soul-destroying part of the transaction process, and the work you do now will help you through that process. So let's look at the next stage. And whilst this stage can be part and parcel of a larger due diligence exercise, I think it's that important that it requires a separate mention in this video. And that's examining your internal and external contracts. So let's take internal first. It's often quoted that staff are your biggest asset for a practice, and that's particularly true in the dental industry, with transactions turning on the retention of key staff. And a key focus for any dental practice purchaser will be the contracts of engagement for both your employees and self-employed persons. In our experience, employee and self-employed contracts are simply out of date, and they don't represent the current terms of engagement. So that's the current working hours, working days, and rates of pay. Now, our recommendations are twofold. You issue variation letters that change the terms of engagement, clearly stating the working hours, days, and rates of pay for each staff member. And secondly, you keep a single spreadsheet of key details for each staff member. Doing so will assist you in preparing and releasing the information required for any sale. Now, in other instances, these contracts simply do not exist and provide no protections to a dental practice seller. For example, there's no clear termination notice periods for your staff. There's no restrictions on your staff from poaching staff or patients. There's no excuse, guys, here. These contracts can improve the value of your dental practice, and time should be spent getting these correct. So here's how we can help. Whether you've already got your contracts or require these drafting, our else employment team are on hand to assist you. So, you've sorted out your staff contracts, but what about those contracts which govern the way in which you own and operate your practice? I am, of course, talking about partnership and shareholder agreements. Now, I'm increasingly seeing more inquiries and instructions during the pandemic with regards to partnership and shareholder agreements. But still, less than 50% of partnerships and companies have a partnership or shareholders agreement. And in both instances, practice owners are putting at risk their ability to sell and how much they receive from their sale. Now, this section carries a warning. It's far more expensive to deal with a dispute regarding a partnership or a company than it is to instruct a solicitor to draft an agreement which deals with what happens with a dispute. Further, the absence of an agreement can create unfortunate circumstances, for example, for a partner. The Partnership Act provides that where there is no written indication otherwise, the profits and losses of the partnership shall apply equally to all partners. Obviously, this may not reflect the arrangement that was intended. So here's how we can help. ELSE can help draft and prepare partnership and shareholder agreements, together with a plethora of other important documentation for partnerships and companies. We try to make this process as painless as possible. Ask us for our partnership agreement and shareholder agreement checklists. So, as I'm sure you can agree, there are plenty of steps you can take during the COVID-19 pandemic to prepare your practice for sale. Let's remind you of those. Number 1, shore up your COVID-19 defences at your practice. And you'll do that by observing the advice and guidance and recommendations from the NHS and the BDA. You can apply for financial support, keep staff on furlough, or redeployed to assist the NHS pandemic relief effort. 2, be the buyer. Contact ELSE to perform a due diligence exercise on your practice and undertake a gap fill exercise together with us. 3, review your internal contracts. And that involves reviewing, collating your employee and self-employed contracts and their details. Have these examined by ELSE. Contact ELSE to draft a partnership or shareholders agreement as applicable. 4, review your external contracts. Consider your lease and make contact with your landlord. Finally, consider how you wish to hold the NHS contract and contact ELSE to understand how you can enter into partnership or incorporate your practice. I'd like to say thank you for listening. I do hope you stay safe and well, and any links referred to in this video will be provided next to it. Thank you.